Bubba-dubba-dubba-dubba-dub. It's zombie time. You've got some card names you need to Google. That's how you know the deck list is good. You don't know Undead Ogre? You're not a real Legacy player. Yeah, that one's straight to the front of /r/gatekeeping. All right, let's go. All right. Bill Gallagher, Zombie Tribal. Let's go. All right. So the first thing, I'm calling this Zombie Tribal, and we're calling Hogaak an honorary zombie for the night. So cut me some slack there. Also, like I guess Bloodghast is a vampire. All right, maybe I shouldn't have made the thumbnail Zombie Tribal. Now that I'm taking a closer look at the deck list, we're really more of a mono black heavy zombie list. I guess we're not fully tribal. All right, so what's the game plan here? We have a lot of things that you would see in some of the Hogaak shells. We have Carrion Feeder and Gravecrawler as a way to produce a bunch of a bunch of power and like grow your creatures while recurring others, which is pretty cool. We have Crypt Breaker, which sometimes sees play in Reanimator sideboards. For 2 mana, you can discard a card to make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And for tapping 3 untapped zombies you control, you can draw a card and lose 1 life. We do have a lot of 1-drops that don't quite fit on here. We're going to be a wee bit soft to a Chalice of the Void tonight. So we have Stitcher Supplier, which is going to help enable our graveyard-based shenanigans. It's going to put Bloodghasts and Gravecrawlers and Hogaaks into the graveyard that we can bring back. And the big one that I don't expect many people here to know is Diregraph Colossus. So it ETBs with a +1/+1 counter for each zombie card in your graveyard. And whenever you cast a zombie spell, create a tapped 2/2 zombie token. So our kind of payoff cards here are like kind of Carrion Feeder, because like you can sack the recurring things, and Diregraph Colossus and good old Hogaak. And the supporting shell has some mono black staples like Cabal Therapy and Thoughtseize. There are 2 other removal cards in the deck. There's a Liliana Last Hope and an Eliminate as well, in addition to the Fatal Pushes that we see in the 1-drop column. As far as the sideboard goes, I'm not sure how I like this sideboard. There are some things I really like about it. All right, what do I really like about it? I love 4 Leyline of the Void. I love 3 Plague Engineer. But then the thing that I see after that is largely a bunch of one-ofs that we don't really have a way to tutor for. And I don't know how I feel about that. So a lot of times decks that don't have cantrips operate on redundancy. So you end up with more copies of an effect than what you need in comparison to like a blue deck. So if you're playing a blue deck and like you have a very good but very narrow sideboard card, you can find that because you're playing something like 12 cantrips to help you dig towards it. But this deck doesn't really have card draw, right? And unless we can like mill into something that's important, a lot of the times like we're just living off the top. So does a 1-of Thorn of Amethyst make sense? I don't know that it does. Is that 1-of Gate to Phyrexia really going to be critical? I don't know. So in looking at the sideboard, I love the Leyline of the Voids and the Plague Engineers, but I don't know about like all of the situational 1-ofs that come afterwards. Like this is a tweaked list that the pilot sent me. Thanks to Randopolis for donating for this, by the way. And we'll see how it goes. But I worry that I'm going to board in a handful of stuff and then like not have the right card at the right time. I think this card is super neat. Force of Despair, which is from the same cycle that Force of Vigor was from. So if it's not your turn, you can exile a black card in addition to instead of paying this thing's costs. And it's a board wipe. Destroy all creatures that entered the battlefield this turn. So that can be a creative way of going through and taking out some really problematic turns from, say, a deck like Elves, or it's a way of getting rid of a large reanimation target or something like that. You think Dark Ritual will be good in this list? I'm not sure. I don't think it's bad. Do I still have another? I deleted that deck list. So a lot of the mono black lists that I play take advantage of Dark Ritual because of how powerful that card is. But I'm not sure our payoffs are quite good enough here to go down that card. So in a lot of the mono black decks, you're looking to resolve like Lily Last Hope, Liliana the Veil, Ashiok, Opposition Agent, Dark Confidant, Bitter Blossom, or like Thoughtseize plus him on the same turn. And that makes the Dark Ritual really powerful. You just get this huge tempo burst. And I'm not sure if we can take like large enough advantage of the tempo burst here for Dark Ritual to be good. Some of our absolute nuttiest nutter hands can maybe do that. Like you go Dark Ritual, Stitcher Supplier, Cabal Therapy, Flashback Cabal Therapy, like that sort of stuff. Like maybe that's cool. But I think the deck list as it's constructed currently does not support Dark Ritual. So Diregraph Colossus, for example, is one of our 3-drops. Is Diregraph Colossus a good turn 1 card? No, absolutely not. And like beyond that, we have one Lily Last Hope, and the Dark Ritual doesn't fuel the Hogaak. So I don't know that it quite works out here. Anyway, YouTube folks, let me know what you think about the deck. If you're enjoying my content, please throw my video a like. That sort of thing really helps out the analytics a lot and really matters so my video gets on more eyes. We've been doing a great job about that, and I've been really happy with how the analytics have been looking. So thank you. I appreciate that tiny little gesture you do to help me out. Let's battle. All right, round 1 hand. Is this hand good? I don't know that this hand is good. I think I really need the second mana source to make this hand work, because I want to be like recurring Gravecrawler, and I can't do that currently. I'm gonna go ahead and mulligan this one. Oh, no. Why on the play or draw? I'm on the play. I'm down a card already. I think this one is like just barely a keep. I get perfect information about my opponent's hand. Like I hope they're a combo deck that I can just like absolutely shred. Well, I mean, we're gonna take the Ponder. My opponent's hand also doesn't do anything. That's the good news. Got ourselves a good old-fashioned discard fest. I'm a Thoughtseize your Thoughtseize. Like, alright, this is how this league is starting, huh? Nathan, thank you very much for your support. Oh, they drew another land, too. Nice. That's very lucky on my end. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get to some big fat zombie creatures. Oh, this draw is actually very good. So we want to play this prior to playing a land. Yeah, buddy. I guess I'll play a Gravecrawler from Graveyard now. Return a Bloodghast. Always yes, always yield. I don't need to Cabal Therapy currently, unless I want to mill Stitcher Supplier. I don't think I want to mill Stitcher Supplier. Like, I'm good with Stitcher Supplier being a 1-1. That's in play. Like, my opponent is in Grixis Collars, which means they don't have exile-based removal. They just played Tarn. Yeah, my deck sure is doing the thing. I think this turn I'll Cabal Therapy them. Oh, sacrifice this one. Senor Jace. I feel it, you know? I feel Jace. By Jace, I mean Force of Will. I think they're gonna force my Cabal Therapy. This game's great. For me. Alright, so we leave them with Underground Sea, Volcanic Island. We'll recast this. I'll floop a land into play since I have another that's still on standby. A Nightmare deck. Play some Corrupt. Maybe some Lash Writhe. What is it? Tendrils of Corruption. Lots of swamp synergy. Alright. Our Bloodghast is basically immortal. I'm just gonna hold these lands. I guess technically I have him to Turok to think about from my opponent's side, but, whatever. Oh, Mutilate. There's a good one. Although that one... Ooh, God, that's a good brainstorm. Although Mutilate might, kill some of my own critters. But luckily they come back. Keeping some extra lands in hand right now also helps to play around Culligan's command. Just shock one of my creatures and discard. Oh yeah, this is definitely an RNG take the wheel sort of game. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6 of 7. So, am I attacking with Stitcher Supplier, I guess is the question this turn. It means that I can't recast the Gravecrawler if the Gravecrawler is killed and my opponent blocks Stitcher Supplier. But Stitcher Supplier finding me another recursive card is so damn good right now. I'm gonna go ahead and battle. Oh. I mean, I'm happy about it. That one doesn't require me to spend any mana. But I guess they reasoned that, I don't have another land. Since, I didn't make land drops the last couple turns. I can see it from their side. It was just surprising to me. The Bloodghast also just innately has haste now, because my opponent is at less than 10. Speaking of... yeah. Okay, I am super happy that we won that game off of that questionable opener. Alright. My opponent is going to have Planeswalkers, so Pithing Needle has some utility, but as a one-of, it's a little weird. I probably play this. Plague Engineer has some degree of utility. Like, it can get Baleful Strix out of the way, it can get Snapcaster Bodies out of the way. I don't actually know if I want to play Plague Engineer here. Therapies are a touch awkward. Like, they're good as a follow-up to a Thoughtseize, but they're pretty medium blind. I think I'm going to try to cut enough cards to take the Cabal Therapies out of the deck and keep my spot removal spells. Assuming that if I can keep their creatures out of the way, my recursive creatures can keep their Planeswalkers in check. Hyperlink, I agree. I haven't played Grixis in a hot minute. I'm looking forward to that too. Let's bring these in and see how it feels. Yeah, this looks fine. Yeah, the queue has some crazy stuff in it right now. I am really excited for Dwarves and Taxes. Like, let me just drop this thumbnail on you I already made. Is gonna be a good league. That's probably the deck that I am the most excited about playing right now. Hey Phil, Cabal Therapy is gonna be bad. Board it out. Damn it, past Phil. Damn it. Alright. The Diregraph Colossus looking a little sus here. Oh, we'll work it out. +1/+1 counter for each zombie in your graveyard. Okay. We're not gonna get very many zombies in the old graveyard. Call it a hunch. My opponent's draw is kind of like their draw from last hand, though, in that, like, they have cards, but not a plan. And I get why they kept the hand. I would have kept that hand, too, but if they're not able to remove my initial threats, I might put the beat on, like, pretty hard. I'm going to save my fetch, because in some worlds this allows me to, like, do Bloodghast things around a surgical, I think. So I want to play Diregraph Colossus this turn, so I can cast Gravecrawler and Bloodghast next turn, although that requires me to have all of this as black mana. Alright. Never mind. I takesy backsies the line. I need black, black, black next turn anyway, so if I can disguise the Wasteland and have my opponent fetch a colored source, that's very good for me. A colored source that I can Wasteland. So I've probably played like 12 leagues with Gate of Phyrexia in my deck, and I don't know that I've ever actually destroyed something with it. uh, just just saying, the touch clunky, and in the mono black decks when you can't cantrip towards it, like sometimes you have it when it doesn't do anything, or you can't find it when you need it. All right, I'm gonna assume that this swamp is gone. I don't know about these surgicals. My opponent probably has at least one. I don't know about both. Like, without knowing more of their hand, it's really hard to tell how many of those they would want. Life's weird. um, Everything's black. Symbols. Can't use Wasteland as colored mana this turn. I think I need to play this card first. Oh, damn, it's cast, not resolves. That's strong. Woohoo! Suck it, surgical! Post combat? Pre combat? Let's go pre combat. So post combat gives me lines if Bloodghast is killed mid combat, but pre combat gives me a better feel for whether or not my opponent is going to have something like a Snapcaster Mage, for example. Although I guess at this point I'm comfortable trading away the Diregraph Colossus, because I've gotten 6 power worth of value out of it already. Oh god, don't Dead of Winter me. I guess it's not going to be Dead of Winter. It could be like Toxic Deluge. Oh god, that would be a good Toxic Deluge. Oh, don't do it. Uh, I mean, Plague Engineer is not bad. Nice. That's a big fish. Opponent is awkwardly at 11, but I am good with that. I think I play a pre-combat Bloodghast because of Surgical Extraction on Bloodghast. Although maybe they just block the Diregraph Colossus. I don't know. I guess I'm already winning through Lightning Bolt. I shouldn't sweat this too much. Like, my opponent had 3 pieces of Graveyard Hate, and I just ignored them. That was really cool. I'll be keeping this hand. It's fine. It's nothing insane or anything. But it has an early piece of Disruption, turn 2 play, a turn 3 play, and, like, Hogaak is always bros. Always happy to have Hogaak around at the party. Oh man, we got a 2-for-1, and we got the whale from our opponent. I'm good with that. This probably means we're playing against Blue-Red Delver. Hogaak and Diregraph kind of look similar in some ways. Happy to have that. Vincent? Vincent. Alright. I feel smart. I know arts and stuff. Hello and welcome, Original Oysters. Glad you're having a good day. Alright, how much damage am I willing to take from this Sprite Dragon? Slash, do I want to play Diregraph Colossus? Oh man, it does kind of look like it's made out of Grafdigger's cages. That seems legit, actually. Wow. That's on point. So I can play Diregraph Colossus now into Daze and Bolt. And next turn go for Carrion Feeder to get a zombie off of this. But I think this is too likely to die or get countered. Let's just go ahead and take away the thing that's going to deal damage to me. So the sequencing for that turn was a little bit weird. In that I could have chosen to not play around Daze and gotten a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. But I did not do that. Because I want to be able... Oh, that's pretty good now. I was going to say I wanted to be able to like get the Bloodghast back from a Bolt effect or something immediately. And I wanted to play around Daze. Alright, can I sack Carrion Feeder to itself? I'm gonna do so then. Bring back some graveyard-based shenanigans. And I think the Diregraph Colossus is worth casting now that my opponent has hemorrhaged 1 Lightning Bolt. This is also slowly going to work us towards enough stuff in graveyard to bring back Hogaak. Hey, there's that Daze I played around. Nice. Okay, let's see. Could have played around the Daze by going Carrion Feeder, sack it, and then play the land and push. You're right. You are right. I could have done that. Probably should have done that. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7. My opponent has 1 card. Hogaak, take the wheel. Dude, I love Tom Ross. Tom Ross is awesome. I lived in Roanoke for a while, so he was one of my locals at Star City. Ooh, game 1 Fork Bolt. Spicy. Yes, we should be expecting approximately 1 answer to a Hogaak. Maybe 0. 2 Brazen Borrower is probably the max. I mean, I think I'm just going to swing Hogaak sideways next turn and kill my opponent. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. Yeah, so generally speaking, your Hogaak style decks are going to be good against your blue decks, especially in game 1. And against blue-red Delver specifically, like, they don't have many outs to this, and they often don't have great graveyard hate or enough graveyard hate to plow through the recursive stuff. So I have 6 cards that I can be thinking about. Force of Despair is probably a bit of a stretch here. I lean towards not on that. Like, let's see what we want to take out. Yes, Force of Despair can kill a True Name Nemesis. So I like Force of Despair for that reason. But am I scared of True Name Nemesis? I don't know that I'm scared of True Name Nemesis. Like, it is a good card, but I think I close out games fast enough that I can race True Name Nemesis like some very real portion of the time. Am I just going down on therapy again? Like, there's very few cards that I can therapy away that are just absolutely backbreaking. Yeah, Thoughtseize makes Delver kill more quickly, but Thoughtseize is real good. I think I'm going to board like this for game 2. If we go to a game 3, I might adjust. Cabal therapies are a little better on the play. Hmm. Uh, double Thoughtseize on the draw is maybe not where I want to be. A lot of their early threats might be outside of Lily Last Hope range if I can't kill a first threat here. Alright, see you around, Mr. Lee. I think I'm going to mulligan this hand. I don't think this one's as good as other hands that I can get. This one I like. I think I don't like Hogaak here. I don't have a good way of fueling my graveyard. I don't have any fetch lands to help fuel it either. I'm not sure which one drop I should lead on with certainty. Crypt Breaker only has 1 power, but can start enabling me to do graveyard-based shenanigans, which I kind of like. So now the question is, like, is it better to double 1-drop this turn, or just, like, make a zombie and discard Bloodghast? Can't guaranteed return that next turn. I can also start discarding zombies for Diregraph Colossus. Trying to kill the viewers at home. What day is it? Wednesday? Yeah, I mean, it's about time to start drinking during the week. I get it. I had my beer last night before bed. I'm going to discard the redundant Crypt Breaker here. I would like to get Diregraph Colossus to the point where it will ETB as a 4/4. Well, you see, I didn't mean it to be a before beer bed. I meant it to be like a mid-evening beer. And then I started recording this Legacy League, and it took a little while longer than I thought. I played with an Umori the Collector deck last night. That one's gonna hit YouTube tomorrow. Uh, it was like a Steel Stompy deck, but like also had Umori since everything's an artifact. It was neat. I think my plan this turn is discard Gravecrawler. Last night I did get to play with a super cool card. Sword of Truth and Justice, the blue-white sword. Ooh. Where's this lightning bolt going? Hardened Crypt Breaker, okay. Alright. There's a bunch of critters in the graveyard. Well, my opponent's counterspells are live again, whereas I've kind of ignored them the last couple of turns. Uh, really want a removal spell. Don't know that that's gonna happen. My opponent has 5 damage showing, so I should assume that I die in 2 turns. I can die this turn technically if my opponent finds a bolt. I can go like another cantrip into a bolt. And that's 14. Definitely nervous. I need to draw a removal spell, and I also need my opponent to not have... Oh, ho, ho. No outs. Lethal flyers. I can't get lethal this turn. Let's Thoughtseize my opponent then and get a little bit of information for the next game. Okay. Well, the Crypt Breaker was doing real work while in play. That's for sure. All right. Actually, hold up. I probably can't afford to have this in the deck, right? Because this is not a May. That's got to go. I don't want to accidentally die to that card. I also might have been able to win that game if I had, like, a fetch land as one of my cards. I could have discarded a Bloodghast, brought back a Bloodghast, discarded a Bloodghast, fetched, brought back another Bloodghast, and we might have been a little bit closer to striking distance there. How do I feel about the Lily? Maybe the Lily is too ambitious. Like, it kills naked Delvers and Sprite Dragons. And otherwise slows things down. What's my worst card right now? Thought Seizes are definitely better on the play. The Lily, my worst card. It might be. Yeah, it might be my worst card. Not confident about that decision. Yeah. This is fine. Radio Mars, thank you very much for your support. Very much appreciated. That's a hard one. I have nothing that cares about surgical right now, exactly. Brainstorm's less scary than normal because my opponent doesn't have a fetch land yet. In a vacuum, I think Ponder is the best card here, but I have to decide how I want to fight this. So I can just take Force of Will, resolve Crypt Breaker, and try to, like, dodge Lightning Bolt for a few turns. I don't hate that. I'll go ahead and punch my hole by taking Force of Will. I don't know if that's correct, but I feel like sticking this Crypt Breaker when my opponent may or may not actually ponder specifically for a bolt is probably pretty good. If I'm in their shoes right now, I am looking for a threat. So it's going to be a little awkward if they do play a threat this turn. So this is the gambit where I can pray that I draw a land and play Plague Engineer, and then I kill this. Or I can just Force of Despair. I think just casting Force of Despair is safer. Oh, right, I don't have to target with this. Because of Crypt Breaker and discarding based reasons, I don't want to have two of the same card in my hand because of their surgical. I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. Ooh. All right. I mean, we traded 1 for 1 there, or I guess more accurately, 2 for 2 there. That's fine. Notably, Plague Engineer and Diagraph Colossus, not best of friends. Not technically a zombie, and neither is this. We're mostly zombie tribal. But we're not quite, like, zombie tribal enough that we're on, like, Cavern of Souls. Or, actually, I think there's one. We're not on a lot of that, if we are. Yeah. Miser's Cavern. Alright. If they still have surgicals, I probably get surgicaled in my draw step here. This Sprite Dragon is now 100% going to outpace me. I am going to need to rip a removal spell for it. Probably next turn or I die. Don't have too much else to say there. I have a handful of outs, but some of these, like, removal spells that I have, like Plague Engineer, are somewhat situational. And another issue with the current situation is that I have 2 mana, and some of my removal spells cost 2 mana. So that means I'm going to be playing into Daze and Pierce and Force of Will and Force of Negation as outs. So basically, life's bad. My opponent's deck is just like a little too sleek and low to the ground for me to get traction. And I'm hitting some negative synergy between like my zombies and non-zombies. Yeah, so I can play Plague Engineer, shrink that. He goes down to 5. And none of my stuff flies. GG. Delver does what Delver does. I'll keep the double Thoughtseize hand. Although I worry that this hand is not going to have threat density required to take advantage of this hole that I punch with Thoughtseize. But I don't think I get to throw back the double Thoughtseize hand in the dark. Okay. Turbo Gurmag Angler deck. I'm gonna take the Force of Will. I think taking their Force of Will incentivizes them to ponder on turn 1 and look for another Force of Will. And Force of Will isn't something that's really amazing against what I have currently. But this puts out combo vibes. Datacaster and your Miracles sideboard. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know where I sit on Miracles right now. I am really unsure of what colors that deck should be. Like, and this is probably a sign of a healthy metagame, right? Like, I see advantages of being blue-white or blue-white-red, with the red being for pyroblasts, or trying to jam the green in there for Uro. Played him like a fiddle. So, I don't know. That's probably a good thing. I don't know how I feel about some of the Prismatic Vista sort of stuff. Not Prismatic Vista. Get him! Get him! Actually, do I... No, I'm gonna Cabal Therapy, Thought Scour, and then Wasteland, I think. Leaving a pair of Brainstorm, too. Oh ho. Alright. What does Thoughtseize accomplish this turn? Probably not much. The Thoughtseize can wait. General blue without Uro feels underwhelming. Yeah, I think the most elegant way I've seen this phrased, and I don't remember who said it, but someone on Twitter said, Uro feels like a choice now instead of a requirement. I don't think I want to play the flashback Cabal Therapy game this turn. I think I want to play that game next turn. That game becomes easier for me if my opponent just goes like land Baleful Strix this turn. They did not humor me by doing so. Unfortunate. Order of operations. Cabal Therapy first. Force a Brainstorm. Or Thoughtseize first. Take a Brainstorm. Play the guessing game with the Therapy. I can also just, like, not Therapy. And just use the rest of my mana this turn on counters. I actually don't hate that. Yeah, like, I'll take your Strix here. Alright, I don't like how my opponent played this turn. I think that my opponent should have brainstormed in response to one of the one of these activations at some point, so that they could have potentially found a lightning bolt. I'm assuming they are red here because they've shown me two different Scalding Tarns. They could have found a lightning bolt and removed Carrion Feeder, which they now don't have the possibility of doing. Thought Scour would be pretty weird from Doomsday. Like, I think they can do better things with their flex slots than Thought Scour. Okay. Now what? You got a big fish for me, maybe? Oh. All right. Who had Goblin Welder on their bingo card? Anyone? Not me. Grand Arbiter of Taste. If you want the deck list, go ahead and just check out the Cardboard Live extension on screen. You can hover over those cards and see what everything does. Strange. First laser. Ooh. Thank you for following. Hope you're enjoying the content. So this is one not everyone might be familiar with. You can discard a card here. Whoa. All right. So what's the wording on this? Can't block unless you have 4 or more cards in hand. So that can't block currently. All right, cool. I don't know, man. My opponent's deck is a spicy meatball. We did make a very large carrion feeder this turn, though. Like, opponent's deck is cool as hell. Your deck is sweet. I don't know how consistent they are, but it's cool. I do know that I will be leylining them. Like, I have Painter plus Vantress Gargoyle to worry about. I think that's enough. I think I continue the trend of boarding out Cabal Therapy. I think I want this Liliana's Triumph. Don't know how I feel about Force of Despair. I lean ever so slightly towards not liking it. Let's board this out again. Plague Engineer's sort of awkward, and so is Lily. They both do things that matter sometimes, and then don't matter a lot of the rest of the time, so. 80k. Stitcher Supplier is great. I love Stitcher Supplier. Played a lot with that card in Vintage, and acquired a great deal of respect for it there. A Hogaak. I'm not gonna Fatal Push the Goblin Welder on turn 1 when I have the chance to turn 1 Stitcher Supplier and, like, maybe get my own thing going. Quick Hogaak kills everyone. Hogaak does not discriminate. Not the best hits, but that's fine. Like, raw number of cards really matters here. Oh, did my list just not update? Okay. Mono black zombies. Okay, I just updated that now. Alright, there we go. Sorry about that. Alright, all better. Okay, what happened on my opponent's turn? Brainstorm, then Ponder. Okay. What am I doing? How am I getting all these blood ghasts into the graveyard? Can I cheat them? Can't really cheat them currently. I have one Fatal Push. The Goblin Welder is not scary yet. Let's Thoughtseize and Sculpt a Plan. I really like information right now. If I can make the coast clear, I can just Hogaak this turn, right? This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, if there's not a counter spell in the way or a removal spell that can beat Hogaak. Oh, 2 Force of Wills? Still correct to Hogaak. Still probably correct to Hogaak. Take Vantress Gargoyle, maybe? Baleful Strix Recursion is also annoying. Take Vantress Gargoyle. I mean, I can't prove that you're not going crazy, but you were right about Cardboard Live. I always feel like I'm going just the tiniest bit crazy. Because you all convinced me to play these deck lists. Ooh. We got Force, Pitch Force for Carrion Feeder. That means Hogaak can party later. Okay, actually, I think I messed up. I think I was supposed to take a Force of Will with my Thoughtseize now, because now I put Vantress Gargoyle into the graveyard, and that's an artifact, and technically that's something that can matter, because my opponent can weld Baleful Strix into Vantress Gargoyle repeatedly now. I'm going to disrupt that loop with Fatal Push, so, like, it's not that big of a deal, but the thing that I did. Yeah, that was poor on my end. I am just going to answer this welder now. I am going to take a relatively strong tempo loss to do this, but I think my opponent welds Strix into Gargoyle here, which is what I want. Because the Strix answers the Hogaak, whereas the Vantress Gargoyle doesn't. All right. All right. I have a Hogaak. I also have one removal spell for my opponent's stuff. We're actually in pretty similar positions. My opponent might be slightly favored. They get the first attack here, which is kind of a big deal, and they have Baleful Strix in their deck that they can draw. Plague Engineer and Polluted Delta. All right. When does Liliana's Triumph happen? Now. Probably now. I think this gets rid of my opponent's Magmatic Channeler. Oh, I just noticed this made its way into the graveyard. Thought Scour target me. That is brave. I have a Bloodghast on board and a Stitcher Supplier. Unless you have a Surgical or something in there. Alright. What's the attack clause on this? Can't attack unless 7 in their graveyard? Okay, so it can attack. So I can crash in with Hogaak and deal them 7, 8, 9, 10. And my opponent has me on a 3-turn clock and I have them on a 2-turn clock. I am good with that. I guess I also could have just attacked with Hogaak and then redeployed Hogaak as well. Maybe that's better. I don't know. Like, if I get to resolve Bloodghast next turn, like, that's a hasty creature too. And I just have, like, 5 lethal that way. I mean, milling that Eliminate is surprisingly good. What am I afraid of now? Alright, Surgical Extraction on Hogaak. Alright, that was a good reason to attack with everything last turn. Now my opponent knows that I'm working with Bloodghast, and they also know that I have Leyline of the Void in my deck if we go to a game 3. This is theoretical lethal. Alright. My Thoughtseize is dead. My opponent has another bolt for my face. They get me here. That's a ponder to find a bolt. No shuffle. That's bad for me. Plague Engineer? Oh. They've fetched down to 1. So they have to kill me or deal with both of my threats. In the middle of this brainstorm, Vantress Gargoyle can block, but not after the brainstorm. You slow rolling this bolt? I'm not gonna Thoughtseize it too. Give me some credit. But thank you. Oh, this is just like the ultimate, like, can I find the lightning bolt brainstorm, huh? Oh, we have gotten the GGs. Yeah, this list is insane. Uh, Goblin Welder, Baleful Strix, Vantress Gargoyle. There's Wishclaw Talismans in there too. Magnetic Channeler. Opponent's deck was sweet. Some Gravecrawlers. I'll keep this hand. If I get a sack outlet, we can do some kind of cool things with the Diagraph Colossus and some Gravecrawler loops. And if we don't, like, we're playing what kind of looks like a standard or modern aggro hand. Alright, is that a fair Underground Sea or an unfair Underground Sea? Because the answer to that question matters a lot. It's an unfair Underground Sea. I'm not really set up to beat that. I don't have the Cabal Therapies and Thought Seizes and stuff to really pop off here. But if this is just going to be a control deck or something, I'm okay there. Oh, sweet, there's a Castle Lockdwayne in this deck. For mana efficiency, I think I'll just play Bloodghast this turn. This also keeps the Diagraph Ghoul in hand for Diagraph Colossus later. Or sorry, it keeps the Gravecrawler in hand for the Diagraph Colossus later. Yeah, I feel good against a control deck, right? Like, I have 3 different recursive creatures in my hand, and then another creature that gets value on cast. But, like, if this is Ant or TES or Doomsday, eh. Castle Lockdwayne has been pretty impressive with some of these, like, mono black decks that kind of run out of gas sometimes. You can't, like, cantrip towards specific endgame cards or anything like that. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, I like where we're at. For order of operations, this comes prior to a land drop. If it gets dazed, it gets dazed, but I want to save this land specifically for a Bloodghast that I hit. Yep, that's fine. I don't expect to have my opponent to have, like, Gut Shot or something, but, like, I'll take my attack now, I guess. Alright. I have 6 power in play, my opponent is at 13. And they're playing a fair deck. Wasteland me. Oh, yeah. I like it. Lol. At 13, so I'll have their life total here. Play the second Bloodghast. It gets countered, no big deal. A land drop brings it back at some point. I think the meta's a little too open to make assumptions based on one land right now. Like, I don't remember exactly, but the 5-0 decklist dump from last week, I think, had 50 or 55 different archetypes. It was something crazy like that. Oh man, you love to see that. You love to see that. I also totally don't mind this crypt breaker. Oh, sorry. I was off by a third. 76 lists. Yeah, that's pretty good. My blood ghasts are hasty, so they're just gonna hang out in the graveyard for a little while. And when they come back, my opponent probably dies. My opponent's Daze is a little late to the party. And my opponent's Delver has to chump block this turn. I know my opponent has Daze, and they can Daze this if they want, but otherwise I'll name the Daze and just take it. Nice. Nice. Uh, Continue the plan of board therapy out every round. Board out the augur too. Get in some number of plague engineers and Miser's Force of Despair for good luck. I'm going to keep this hand. I think it's a little problematic in some ways, in that I don't really do anything proactive early, but I had 2 different removal spells, and now I have a third. I think that's fine against Delver. Oh. Well, shit. So this hand was real good against like the Delver, Tarmogoyf sort of stuff that my opponent could have, but not good against this. Eh. And now like my Wasteland gets Wastelanded too. I can't work towards hard casting the larger things in my deck. Like I guess I'm kind of lucky in that like I have multiple answers to the Uro, but the life gain my opponent gets from doing that is so relevant against my aggro deck. The fact that they're getting another land drop here is also a big game. Oh. So we're Wastelanding? This is an awkward life. But I think with where this game's at currently, I try to keep them from getting the quad colored mana required to cast Uro. That probably means attacking their green. They probably have more blue mana sources in their deck than green by maybe 1 or 2. I don't know that for sure, but I call that a pretty safe guess. Hello? Surely the 1/1 Carrion Feeder isn't worth using a removal spell on. Alright, so now I've insulated myself against Uro for probably a good number of turns. And now I just need to beat the Delvery style stuff. I don't have the pressure to do that currently. I have no recursive cards. Just fetching now. Got oof. If they can just get another colored source, then they can basically Uro twice, which is very devastating to me. I put 2 more lands into their graveyard by double wastelanding them. Um, Triumph now? Fatal Push is the worst at killing Uro. It requires me to get Revolt. Maybe I just Fatal Push. Skullclamp MTG, thank you very much for the support, friend. Hope your stream went well. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 1 more card in graveyard. The Hogaak. We're not quite there yet. For anyone just tuning in, hi, I'm Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU. Tonight we are playing what is basically a tribal zombies deck. Skullclamp MTG. So the numbers that are displayed after a raid aren't necessarily accurate. So don't sweat that. So I often find that if I'm streaming with 100 people, it'll say I'm raiding for 50. The deck is doing okay. I think I'm 2-1 currently, question mark? It's hard to keep track of my record while I'm streaming. Yeah, okay. I'll have to answer that Uro again, unfortunately. this first? Maybe I do this first. No, I can play Hogaak around days if I do this first. Oh, wow. All my stuff resolved. That makes me happy. I can also just eliminate the Uro. What is this? Okay, now they're not tapping for black, so this is just going to be the Uro returning. That's fine. Yeah, a lot of the, well, not a lot. Some of the mono black decks end up being very low budget decks, but then some of the mono black decks randomly have like a bunch of like Chains of Mephistopheles or something, and then they're very much not budget decks anymore. I hope I don't get got by double days for not playing out Bloodstained Mire. Okay. Am I playing land? Playing land allows me to dodge like Hymn to Torok or Lily. Plus, I don't think either one of those things are relevant, whereas a Crypt Breaker zombie could be relevant. Yeah, let's just battle. Hello? I would like to get into the red zone. One ticket to the combat step, please. Yeah. So in a match earlier, we played a Diregraph Colossus, and then I think we cast 2 zombies, either in the same turn or the following turn, and it was sick value. Although every time the Diregraph Colossus has entered play so far, it's just been a 2/2. I haven't put a +1/+1 counter on that card yet, and I was really expecting to do that. Um, Skull Clamp, like 60%'s good, right? Like I know in the like top heavy prize world that is MTG, it's very easy to get caught up in those like elite grinder numbers. But if you're at 60% or above in Legacy, like that's respectable. Yeah, anything over 55% on Magic Online theoretically should allow you to go infinite. Nice. So I guess pre-combat makes sense with this. All right, we had one enter bigger. Mission accomplished. Good guys win, bad guys lose. Oh yeah, and like that's part of the reason why like 60% on Magic Online is good, right? Like it's not like going to your local game store. Like at your local game store, how many big fish are there in the pond? Right? Like there aren't going to be as many people there aren't going to be that many people as good as you at your local game store in most cases. Right? Like if you're the sort of person who is watching MTG content in your off time, like if you're playing on Magic Online, you're going to be better than most of the people at your local shop. Like there are exceptions to that. Like you can live in Roanoke and like then a bunch of your local top eights are like pro tours or something like that. But outside of those sorts of situations, it's it's pretty rare that 2, 3, 4. Yeah, all right, so this is just lethal. Yeah, it's pretty rare that like your competition is going to be good as you. So like I'm not keeping track of statistics right now, but like if I play a local event, a local level event, I would expect to top eight almost 100% of the time, right? Like I play so much Magic that I would just expect that to be true. And if I go and play in a Magic Online like Legacy Challenge or something like that, I expect to do well, but I don't expect to top eight every time, right? The quality of competition is very different. All right, single Castle Locktwain hand probably doesn't get there because this is going to enter tapped. I'm going to mulligan this one and try to find something more consistent. I don't like this. Triple Hogaak is not good. And Thoughtseason and Nakin Carrion Feeder is probably not great either. Yeah, I mean, 8/8 Trampler in play that goes smash and kills opponent dead in 2 turns is pretty sick. What's the most shameful deck I've ever 5-0'd with? Not everything gets published these days, but the original Curse Stompy build that I 5-0'd with was pretty suspect. Also, like, why are all my deck names like this? Why can't they be decks? When did I 5-0 with Snowco? Alright. We'll banter more later. Alright, so let's mulligan again. This is the most consistent hand I've seen so far. Put 2 of these back. Turn 1 play, turn 2 play, turn 3 play. Hogaak and Fatal Push don't fit into that sequence. I guess. God, I didn't 5-0 with Merfolk, did I? Hope not. I don't want that on my record. Alright, so probably playing against Oops All Spells. Whoa! 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 Whoa. This isn't actually as scary as it looks. My opponent has green mana in play, and then, like, a red ritual and a black ritual and a goblin charbelcher. I can Cabal Therapy twice next turn. So which one of these cards kills me most frequently next turn? The Goblin Charbelcher can just be flooped into play and dodge the discard. So I think I'm going to take that. Now we pray that opponent doesn't top deck a Lotus Petal or a black land. Yes, I think you are crazy for wanting to take Dark Ritual, because we want to take Goblin Charbelcher and Doomsday. We want to take their enablers here. Sorry, not their enablers. We want to take their win conditions. Okay, is Carrion Feeder going in play or in the graveyard? I think it's going directly to jail. Because it just powers up Diagraph Colossus a bit later. Why can't I highlight this card? Alright, so they're left with Rite of Flame and Lion's Eye Diamond. Nice. Thokash, thank you very much for following. Hope you're enjoying the content. Skull Clamp, if you get 30 people, that's a classroom. Well done. Sure is. Sure is hard to build an audience. Takes a lot of time. Gravecrawler. Don't mind if I do. I hold this land, I believe. This is my opponent at 15. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage next turn. Doomsday, probably no longer an out for my opponent. Unless they can win the same turn. They might be able to with LEDs. Rite of Flame. Double Doomsday. Nice. Doomsday? Not Doomsday Spectre, but actual Doomsday. And then the cool thing here is that that allows us to recast the Gravecrawler, which gives us yet another zombie. And getting game 1 versus this sort of deck is so huge with a non-meta deck like this one, shall we say. Oh no, my opponent's waiting to pay costs. Okay, that's fine. My opponent might have needed to crack LEDs in response to that Metamorphose to have more outs. So they gambled for an Echo of Eons. Alright, I guess I play my lands out next time. Yeah, I can technically lose from this position now. I gotta leyline this opponent. That's something that I have to start thinking about. They have Gamble and Echo of Eons. They can't Doomsday me. Like, they technically have black, black, black for it, but I don't think they can go off in the same turn cycle. So that means they have to Charbelcher me? No. Well, now they can just be looking at Tendrils, right? I'm at 18, so Tendrils is lethal. I don't know what all is in their deck. That's a little upsetting. Like, I think my opponent punted by not cracking one of their Lion's Eye Diamonds in response to that first Metamorphose, and it worked out for them. Like, that's okay. It's just a little frustrating. I'll play these for goblins, I guess. The speed on this. Yeah, not good. I will leyline. Because the fatal pushes aren't going to be good, and the eliminates aren't going to be good, and the Lily Last Hopes aren't going to be good. And that's a pretty good suite of things to start with. Pithing Needle for Belcher. DGA Nev, thank you very much for rating. I appreciate the support. For everyone just tuning in, hi, I'm Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU. We are currently 3-1 with mono black zombies in Legacy. Well, the ley lines aren't great, but I'm kind of interaction light, so I think I need to keep them. And I probably need to cut some degree of top end or grinding. Crypt Breaker is a little slow, for example. Hogaak takes a little bit of setup. Cardboard Fjord, thank you very much for following. I go down 2 Hogaaks, I think. I think I can kill my opponent with whatever if I kind of do some locking out early. Maybe go down Grip Breakers. Those are kind of grindy cards, and maybe I'll go down that. I think I have to keep this. I have 2 different discard spells. It's kind of a big deal. Pastor, thank you very much for following. Um, I used to use the KMC Perfect Fits for all of my inner sleeves. Although I'm not sure how available those are now. I have this vague recollection that I couldn't find them the last time I wanted them and I had to get something else. Yeah, I mean, I've been very happy with KMCs. My entire collection, more or less, is in them. Oh, your inners are fine. You're just looking for a good clear outer. Why do you need a outer sleeve for your flip cards, though? Yeah, so Zarnia, that's the thing. I did do that. I've uh I've gone through a lot of magic cards. I have this box of bad white cards, and geez, I own a lot of bad white cards that are sleeved and ready to go. Yeah, so back when I had my full Legacy collection before I sold some of it, I had almost 4x of Legacy, all double sleeved, ready to go for deck building reasons, and I would regularly show up to like Star City and Roanoke with 5 or 6 Legacy decks in my bag at any given time. Hey, Apple Pies, welcome. We're waiting on our opponent to figure out their mulligan. They're playing an all-in combo deck, and they've gone to 4 cards. A couple years ago, though, I sold off a good portion of my legacy to buy a car, and now I own Death and Taxes, basically as my only legacy deck. I own like basically any splash variant of Death and Taxes that I could want, but I offloaded most of my collection. I don't regret that. Like it was something that needed to happen financially. Yeah. So my if you search the Star City database for legacy, oh, what were they calling them? They're recurring legacy events. They're IQs. You can find IQ finishes of me playing some really shameful shit in Death and Taxes. So for example, there's a weekend where I top 8 with Lone Missionary in my sideboard. that's a that's a weird hand. I think I take Low Lotus Petal, oddly enough. Rats. Now Cabal Therapy plays into Veil of Summer. I might still be casting it. We'll see. Because, like, if Cabal Therapy gets rid of Veil of Summer and Lotus Petal for its effect, that's not actually that bad. Like, this is essentially me taking that Lotus Petal. I'm good with that. Notably, my opponent is still Hexproof, so I can't grab Simian Spirit Guide this turn. I also don't know if I will grab Simian Spirit Guide. Back in my day, when I first started playing Legacy, which, geez, I guess is like 10 years ago at this point, I, like, cards were still expensive then, but the gulf between costs then and costs now is just absolutely huge. Like, I remember that, like, Caracas and Rashadenport were the most expensive cards in my deck, and those were, like, budgetarily prohibitive to me. And I like cracked open a slabbed Caracas when I found one that was cheaper than it should have been, and I was ecstatic about that. And, like, ooh, gamble. But now, like, when some of the duels cost like $600, yeah, it's rough. All right, they discarded LED, which is good news for me because they probably have Echo of Eons. Uh, 4 cards in graveyard. Do I Cabal Therapy? I think they have Echo of Eons because they discarded LED. That could be a false read on my part, though, relatively easily. I think I'm not going to Cabal Therapy and instead build towards a world where I can maybe get enough power into play to close my opponent during this awkward period. Ah, damn. That's very good. I will take Goblin Charbelcher. One, two, three, 4 cards in graveyard that are relevant. This turn's really hard. I think I am supposed to do this. I kind of want to get rid of the Crypt Breaker because it makes my Diregraph Colossus so much better when it goes into play. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get rid of the zombie because if I miss on the land, it's kind of disastrous. Because of Veil of Summer specifically, I'm going to go ahead and go after Rite of Flame. Carrion feeder. That's interesting. I think I am just going to pass the turn, though. This ley line has... The ship has sailed on this. I'm just going to go ahead and discard that. Okay, that's good. Just tapped. No, it's not tapped. Nice. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in graveyard. I can also just play like a Diregraph Colossus too, I guess. I guess the Plague Engineer is better. I can just shut off goblins as well. Let's go Hogaak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This still allows me to attack with the zombie this turn. Bear with 2 guns. Keep in mind that, like, Echo of Eons is something that can happen. And if an Echo happens and then my opponent makes some goblins, I lose access to that line. I've gotten bit in the butt by that before. I think I like how I've boarded well enough. But I really am largely counting on the fail rate of my opponent's deck when I'm on the draw. This probably needs to be a mulligan. Like, it has a ley line, but I am trying not to lean on leyline for a win because, like, my opponent is doing, like, Doomsday and Belcher and Storm shenanigans. So, like, this stops some of the echo-based stuff and makes Rite of Flames worse and shuts off Passion Flames line if that's something that also is in there. But it's not necessarily a game winner. So I don't know about this one. Yeah, like, I remember trading for the worst dual lands and picking up a bunch of them in, like, the $35 to $50 range. Is one Thoughtseize good enough? I guess it's a Thoughtseize plus a Wasteland. Alright. There's a good portion of the time where I just die on turn 1, though. We'll see. Like, my opponent's deck has some degree of a fail rate. Why didn't you play your LED out before gamble? Or did you gamble for the LED and you already had the Echo? I guess I'll find out. Alright, Spirit Guide plus Veil of Summer. I mean, that's fine. I have a wasteland if my opponent plays a land, otherwise I have 2 creatures next turn. Oh no, I feel unfavored here, unquestionably. Yeah, now my opponent just needs to get to 3 mana. I don't want to show this wasteland, but I think I have to show this wasteland. I think I have to play this so that the Bloodghast can be haste damage in the future. I can play Bloodghast as haste damage next turn, so I'm just going to grow my Carrion Feeder this turn. Alright, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is my final points of damage. Alright. Does opponent get to mana and kill me? My opponent could still have it and be trolling me. 4-1! We pulled off the 4-1 with zombies! Alright, I'm pretty pumped about that, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, thoughts on the deck list. The one-ofs feel really bad. So, like, with this stuff here, what's the best? And should I be playing more copies of the thing that's the best here? I don't know that I like diversity in a deck that doesn't have cantrips or doesn't have a tutor engine of any kind. I feel like I want to flush out some consistency here. So, like, if I want more zombies, like, play more Undead Augurs. If I want more removal, like, maybe remove Undead Augur and the Lily and play more removal. I just feel like these random one-ofs, and I'm gonna throw Fatal Push into the same bucket here, just felt weird. I'm not gonna say bad, but weird. And I very much believe that the sideboard needs polishing. So, like, there's Aethorn. Am I going to draw that versus Storm? Am I going to mulligan towards that with Storm? Like, this portion feels solid, right? And like maybe the Force of Despair doesn't get to be in the deck list after you adjust the sideboard, but like these 7 cards I feel like are locks. Whereas with the rest of this, I feel like all of these cards are 100% flexible. I don't know if Force of Despair is bad. I think it's awkward. It's like one of these immensely high ceiling cards, but very low floor cards as well. Power, thank you very much for following. If I were going to redesign this sideboard, I think there's a card from a recent set that can destroy a creature or enchantment and you lose life. I think that is probably going to be better than Gate to Phyrexia. I just have not been impressed with the consistency of that card. Waiting a turn to answer something is just like so long. Feed the Swarm, yeah, that sounds right. I don't know. I probably want 2 to 3 single target. Well, I want 2 to 3 cards in the sideboard that can kill creatures. So like Liliana's Triumph and Dismember and Friends are fine. I think I want something else to help me against combo, or maybe a more consistent plan for non-graveyard based combo. That can be more discard, that can be some Hymn to Torox or something. There's options there. But I just want to feel more solid. Like we ended up with the 4-1 today, but like we got our little butt right barely over the bar to pick up that 4-1. And I think if you want to play a deck like this, you have to make sure that that sideboard plan is good. For those of you watching on the YouTube end, if you made it this far, please throw the video a like. I really appreciate that. That sort of stuff helps out my analytics a lot and helps get more eyes on my content. If you're really enjoying my content, donations are currently $30 to get your deck featured on stream or YouTube. Have a great rest of the day, YouTube folks.